So I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. 120Hz screens are overrated. Oh, there's a reflection of me. Hello everybody and welcome to All Tech Canada. This is Mo Dabas and today we're gonna be reviewing the Razer Phone. So as usual, I'm gonna start with the specs. So this phone has a 5.7 inch LCD display and it comes at 16:9 aspect ratio. It's a 2K display, so it has 1440 by 2560 resolution, quad HD resolution. And for those keeping up with the PPI, it's 515 pixel per inch. Now, what's special about this phone is the 120 Hz refresh screen, and we're going to be talking about that later on in the video. When it comes to the internal, the phone has a Snapdragon 835 processor. It comes with 64 gigabytes of storage that is expandable, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 4000 milliamp hour battery. When it comes to the camera, we have 3 cameras, 2 at the back that are terrible, to be honest. So they're both 12 megapixel cameras, and one of them is a zoom camera while the other is the normal or wide angle camera, whatever they call it. Sometimes they call it wide angle, it's just the normal camera. The other one, as I said, is the zoom camera. Up the front, we have the 8 megapixel front facing camera. Both cameras are actually terrible. All the photos I've taken, I actually took one photo with this phone and then I stopped taking photos because the picture was terrible. Other features with this phone, the first one is the lack of headphone jack and the dual speakers. So I've used this phone, I usually try to use the phone for about at least a month before I review it to give an honest opinion. But this is one of the phones that I couldn't use for a long period of time. Pretty much I used it for almost a week and then I gave up. And that's pretty much because the main issue I found with this phone, which is the crappy call quality. People were unable to hear me properly. Sometimes I wasn't able to hear people properly. It was really annoying. So I even tried to test it myself. So I think it's something to do with the noise canceling of this phone. So at certain volume when I'm speaking, if I'm a bit too low, or the volume is a bit too low, for example, at the end of the word or something similar, the volume just cuts out completely. And this isn't just with this unit. So I tried another one and it kind of gave me the same crappy call quality. So I thought at one point I thought I'll just yell on the phone all the time when I'm talking, but still it was the call quality, even when I'm listening to people, wasn't that good. People were having excuse me, people were having difficulties hearing me, and I was having difficulties hearing people, so I just gave up on the phone. In the end, for me, a phone is a device that I need to make phone calls, otherwise I'm not interested in it. However, I kept using it with Wi-Fi to play games, just for the sake of this review. And yeah, so I'll talk about the things I liked about this phone. To begin with, the screen, it's kind of a mixed bag. Now, the 120 Hz, to be honest, I think is super overrated. I think it's blown out of proportion by reviewers. I honestly, yes, it's there. It's nice to have, but it's not something you would go buy this phone for. I wouldn't go buy this phone just for the 120 Hz screen. But what I like about the screen is the color that the screen was producing. The image quality in general is actually really good. However, one major drawback of this screen is the crappy brightness. So the brightness, the first couple of days the first day I used the phone, actually, I went outside and I was like, oh wait, I can't see anything from the screen because of the sun. So I went down the notification, and as you can see, I found out that I had it to the max. And I've been using this phone with max brightness all the time, even indoors I've been using the screen brightness at max. It's just the screen doesn't produce uh, enough brightness. I think the max brightness is 380 nits, and compared to Samsung's, for example, which can produce 500 and more nits, it's a very dim screen. Now, another thing I liked about the phone is the build quality. So it's a single block of aluminum. I like it's very solid, it's heavy, and it feels nice in the hand. I liked everything about the build quality except the two. I'll try to zoom on them. The two speaker grills, which are two pieces of plastic that seems to be glued. And to be honest, if I have fingernails, I'll probably be able to just come in and snap it out with my fingernails. Everything feels super high quality about this phone, except in terms of build quality, except these two plastic flaps on top and bottom. They're super cheap. I'm pretty sure if tons of people have them fallen out because the glue would wear out, and they're a bit even raised. So pretty much if you have fingernail, you probably can't take it out yourself. In terms of software, it comes with Android 8.1. It's upgradable to 8.1, and it has Nova Launcher, which is fine. I didn't have any problem with the software, except sometimes, for some reason, the phone decides that it's connected to the Wi-Fi, but it's connected but no internet. So I have to turn off and on the Wi-Fi real fast to restore the network connection. So I talked about the screen and how the 120 hertz refresh rate is a bit overrated, and I still think it's overrated. However, well, unless you keep doing this all the time. However, one thing I really liked about the screen is the touch sensitivity. It's touch sensitivity. So the screen is very sensitive, and I like that, especially when you're playing games. You touch on a part, and it goes right away. It's very fast to respond. It's very fast to respond, and I enjoyed that part in this phone. Of course, the phone is bulky. It has, if you, that's one of the drawbacks. It's bulky, so the screen to body ratio is around 72%, 73%. And yeah, for me, as I said, I used this phone for a couple of days, maybe 3, until I gave up because of the call quality. So that's something to be aware of. However, I kept playing games on this phone just for the sake of this review for about a couple of weeks or so. And when it comes to playing games, that's something I should mention. When it comes to playing games, the phone is actually a beast. So that's not because of the screen, of course. That's mainly because of the processor, the tons of RAMs that you got, and the battery, which can hold a charge. It can hold you 2-3 hours of playing before dying. Intensive graphic games, not just Angry Birds and similar. Yeah, so pretty much that's my review. This one is a short one because I honestly didn't use the phone for long. I can't choose a phone that doesn't have a good call quality. That's the bottom line. I use my phone for calling, and this one does not provide the calling part properly. So my verdict, to be honest, I wouldn't, if I'm going to buy this phone, I wouldn't buy it for myself just because of the call quality. However, if you want a portable tablet, tiny tablet, and you find this phone for super cheap. Now this phone has been discounted a lot because Razer can't sell it. So if you can find it for extremely cheap price, and you want a portable tablet, tiny tablet with like few phone calls, then go ahead and get this one. Otherwise, search for something else, because in the end, If you even want to do it for Instagram and so on, it wouldn't work because the cameras on this phone are not that great either. So you can do it for Instagrams and taking pictures and so on. You can do it for phone calls. So you can do it for media you can use this phone for media consumption, which is not a bad idea since the both the screen, unless you're outside, the screen has good color production, good general quality except the brightness, and it has dual speaker which are really amazing, and it provides Dolby Atmos, and it even has one thing that I really liked when you go to the settings. So you have, I'll try to go around the camera. Yeah, so in the Dolby Atmos feature, you can have dynamic movie and so on, which is really cool to have for a phone. And the sound profiles do differ between these profiles. I kept on dynamic so that when I switch from playing games to YouTube, it switches automatically. Yeah, so pretty much that's everything I have to talk about this phone. I know it's a short one this time, but I honestly didn't use the phone for much, and honestly there isn't much to talk about this phone much. The stock Android with the Nova launcher, there's nothing special. The hardware, we've seen this hardware tons of times. The screen 120 hertz, however, it's not the best screen. Mainly the brightness kills the display quality. If it has better brightness, then it would have been one of the best screens I've ever seen. And I know I usually complain about IPS displays. However, in this case, since this is supposed to be a gaming phone, I would let that one pass because for gaming phones, to have a an AMOLED screen, you'll probably get some burn-ins, whether it's the HUD, whether it's the life bar, and so on. And I've seen that in previous phones that we've got. So yeah, LCDs don't produce burn-ins, which is a good thing about having an LCD for a gaming phone. And beside that, yeah, this is my experience with this phone. Unless you get it for a really cheap price and you don't mind the mediocre call quality and the camera, then go for it. Otherwise, shop for something else. And I guess this is everything I have to say about this phone. And also 120 hertz refresh rates are overrated. Yeah, Mode Abbas. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment or tweet me at Altec Canada. I'll leave the information down in the description. This has been Mode Abbas from Altec Canada, and this is the review of the Razer phone. That's it. Hi again. So I just want to get back to explain, because I think I didn't explain properly, why I think 120 hertz screens are overrated. And pretty much the reason is because the lack of content. So yeah, it's really nice to have a 120 hertz screen. It feels smoother when you're scrolling around, when you're so on, going through the settings, when the animation, it feels smoother, it feels nicer. However, most games right now, there's a handful of games that support 120 hertz, but again, it's a handful of games. It's not really a lot. Most of the popular games, such as PUBG, they're still on 60 hertz max. Yeah, so, and most of the videos on YouTube, on Netflix, they're even, I think Netflix is 30 hertz, while YouTube can go up to a 60 hertz refresh rate. Still, there aren't a lot of apps that support it. There aren't a lot of video streaming services that support it. And that's why I think at the moment it's kind of overrated, because you're really only getting the benefits of the 120 hertz screen when you're scrolling within the phone menu and notifications and so on, which is something I would trade higher brightness for. I would rather a phone with higher brightness, especially for someone who goes outside a lot, way more than a phone with a 120 hertz refresh rate. And that's pretty much why I think it's overrated at the moment. Maybe in the future that would be something to look towards, when big companies such as Samsung and Apple jump into higher refresh rate screens, then developers will start developing those apps to take advantage of those high refresh rates. But for now, there's only a handful of games that take advantage of the 120 hertz. Otherwise, you're only stuck when scrolling and going through the menu. And that's why I think at the moment 120 hertz screens are kind of overrated. I would never buy a phone at the moment just because of the 120 hertz screen. Honestly, I wouldn't even buy it. Even in the future, it's not a feature I would go buy a phone for. You know, it's something there, nice to have, but not something I would go buy a phone just because of the high refresh rate. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say. So again, thank you for watching. If you have any question or comment, down below in the comments, or tweet me at Alltech Canada. Thank you very much for watching. Moda Bass from Alltech Canada.